Hi, and welcome back to the Drama-Free Healthy Living podcast. I'm so happy you're here. I'm taking some time off to focus more on my family, but in the meantime, I'm sharing some of my old favorite solo episodes with you. I hope you find this one helpful on your health and fitness journey. And if you want regular nutrition and wellness tips, join me at jessicacording.substack.com. When you subscribe, you'll get a free guide on what to eat to manage stress. And don't forget to follow me on social media if you want to stay in touch. I'm most active on Instagram at Jess Cording. See you soon. Welcome to Drama-Free Healthy Living with Jess Cording. I'm your host, Jess Cording. I'm a registered dietitian, health coach, and author, and I'm here to help you streamline your wellness routine and establish a sane, more balanced relationship with food and fitness so you can reach your goals without losing your mind. On this podcast, we'll talk about nutrition, exercise, self-care, mindset, and more. I'll be bringing you interviews and expert insight on the topics that matter to your health and wellness. Hi guys, and welcome to the Drama-Free Healthy Living podcast with Jess Cording. I'm your host, Jess Cording, and today I've got another episode for you in my series of Little Game Changers episodes. So if you haven't listened to one of these episodes before, I've been sharing some of my favorite chapters and sections from my book, The Little Book of Game Changers, 50 Healthy Habits for Managing Stress and Anxiety. This book came out in January 2020, right before the coronavirus pandemic first shut down. And man, it's crazy how much has changed in that time. But by the same token, a lot of these topics are probably even more relevant than they were before COVID. And today's topic is all about loneliness. This is something that all of us have struggled with at some point. And I feel like during the pandemic, I feel like everyone I talked to, whether they were living by themselves or living in a home with lots of other people or one other person even, a topic that kept coming up was feelings of isolation, being cut off. And that's the thing about loneliness. It doesn't matter if you're an introvert, an extrovert, married, single, old, young. It's not about what's going on in your life. It's something we all go through. It comes up in different ways. It affects us differently. As a dietitian and health coach, I talk a lot with my patients and clients about how to navigate uncomfortable feelings and how to acknowledge when you might be veering towards using an unhealthy coping mechanism. So for example, when we're feeling blue, it can definitely trigger some unhealthy habits that we use to distract ourselves. So for example, something that comes up a lot in my work is eating to combat feelings of loneliness, or sometimes drinking alcohol. But it could be other habits that are not helpful. So for example, like binge watching TV to escape, excessive video game playing, gambling to the point where other things in your life slide, shopping, and again, any other manner of things. But that's definitely one that I've noticed for myself. If I find myself like filling my online shopping cart with more things than usual, I'm like, okay, what's going on? What emotion am I trying to escape right now? Or on the flip side, is there an experience that I wish I was having that I'm trying to buy through like $12 pieces of clothing? It's very similar to like someone who's like hitting up the candy aisle at the drugstore. It's like we all have our thing. Instant gratification. But most of the time, these feelings of loneliness, they pass fairly quickly. It comes and goes. It's a mood. But if it becomes overwhelming or it doesn't lift after a few days, or you just find yourself also feeling hopeless, losing interest in things you once loved, or you start noticing you're experiencing suicidal thoughts, definitely please seek help from a licensed therapist or your doctor. For that, I don't want to say run-of-the-mill, but for that everyday loneliness, I think having a game plan in place can help you get through those times without mindlessly falling back onto unhelpful or self-destructive behaviors. I like to call this a loneliness game plan. And it's funny, when the book came out, this was one of the chapters that people commented on the most. And I just thought that was so interesting, that it's something that we all experience, but in society, we're not really conditioned very well to cope with loneliness. Look at what happened during, especially the early days of the pandemic, but even as we got in like over a year, as I'm recording this, it's about 2 years, and I think that loneliness is a topic that I know I hear about all the time from my patients, and it's something that I've had to navigate as well throughout this time. But having a loneliness game plan can really help you feel better equipped to handle those feelings when they come up. because they will. That's one of those things about life, is like sometimes things are going great and you're feeling really, really awesome, and then there's times where you're not feeling so great. And I think it's okay to normalize not feeling okay sometimes. I mean that like every day it's going to pass in a few hours or days not okay feeling, but I think that rather than trying to deny the fact that we're feeling that way or numb out or distract ourselves from it in an unhealthy way, and I think acknowledging it when it's happening and intentionally doing things that will make us feel better is super powerful. So here's a few of the basics for how to formulate a loneliness game plan. Just know that every person is different, so it is going to look a little different, but here's some of the main factors that I think can be really, really helpful. So step 1 is really important. Know your triggers. Just get real with yourself about the situations where you tend to feel lonely, and also about how you cope. So for example, you might have some coping mechanisms that are really, like say you feel lonely on weekends. That was something I definitely went through when I was younger. I think especially in college, that was a big thing for me, because I was like living off campus and I had all these things going on during the week, and then on the weekends, if I didn't have stuff going on, it was like, oh, okay, because I was just like so single through college. That's a whole other podcast episode there. But know the triggers. And again, you might have some coping mechanisms that are really healthy, like going to the gym, texting a supportive friend. I know I used to go for long walks when I was in college on the weekends. That used to be a really nice distraction, just like long rambling walks through Boston, and just that was really nice. But that's it. There are going to be habits that are not super helpful. So, and you know what yours are. Be super honest with yourself, but resist the urge to judge or criticize. Just take note. Just observe what happens. So something I know I found super helpful was literally to make a list of what to do when you feel lonely. So step 2, make a list. That is the core of your loneliness game plan. So once you've identified those triggers, come up with some better things to spend your time on. So let's say you've noticed, for example, that, I don't know, Wednesday evenings are really tough for you. So that might be a great time to book a weekly workout class, or like treat yourself to like a manicure or some kind of spa treatment you like, if that's your thing, or some other self-care practice that makes you feel like you're doing something nice for yourself. It can be something that you pay for. It can be something free, like an at-home spa thing, or finding just things that are going to be interesting for you, like going to a class. So in college, I knew that afternoons were my difficult time. I have terrible seasonal affective disorder. So like Boston in the dead of winter was a very scary thing for me. Oh gosh. And I didn't know any of the coping skills I have now to deal with seasonal affective disorder. I was just like, wow, I feel like crap. Like between the hours of like 4 and 8 p.m. What I started doing was I started taking classes. I would always make sure I had a class during like the most difficult window of time. So that was how I built my class schedule. As an adult, obviously it's a little different, but during those times where I know that I might be prone to feelings of loneliness, I would, for example, when I was living alone in New York City, I would plan events or look up workshops, or know that, okay, if like Saturday afternoon I don't have anything else going on, I might be feeling a little, again, I was dating a lot, but I was single a lot too. I'd be like, okay, I'll do a pedicure on Saturday afternoon, or I'll go to a cafe and read a book, or make a date with friends to catch up. I used to do that all the time. I would have certain friends that I would text when I knew that I was going to be feeling a little wonky, and we would make a plan to go do something, meet up in the park, or take a yoga class together, or go out to eat or for drinks, something like that. And again, that was my experience as a single person, but this can apply for if you're married, have a family. Like if you know that when your house is a little quiet, it feels uncomfortable for you, like that's a good time to pick up the phone and call somebody, or make a plan to meet up with someone. But what's really key about your loneliness game plan is that it needs to include activities that you actually enjoy doing. So, of course, not destructive things necessarily, but so for example, if you find it really soothing to busy yourself with different tasks, then maybe, yes, like cleaning when you feel down will genuinely work for you if you find that soothing. I know for myself, I used to love blasting music and cleaning my bathroom. It was like super therapeutic, like, I don't know. But for someone who just does not find that kind of activity comforting, then oh my gosh, cleaning, organizing on that list because you think it's something you should do, like that is not going to make you feel better. When you do things that you generally find restorative and soothing. That's going to benefit you a lot. But if you're doing things because you're like, I may as well because, nobody wants to hang out with me, like that's just going to perpetuate like a self-loathing down mindset. Make sure you're kind to yourself. Changing habits is a process. And it's also worth noting that emotionally challenging situations can make it harder for us to stay motivated towards a goal. So if it takes you some time to get on track with responding to loneliness in a more mindful, positive way, that's totally okay. Just if you have a difficult time, acknowledge maybe what made it difficult, where you feel like you slipped up, and use that information to make a better choice next time. Also, if it helps to write it down, I find that this has worked so much for my patients and clients over the years when they're working on a habit. Sometimes just writing down the steps. So for that loneliness game plan, literally make a list, and you can keep it in a drawer, you can keep it electronically in your phone or your calendar, like somewhere that you are going to have access to it. But just making a list of, okay, when I feel lonely, these are the things that I know will help me feel better. So that way, if you feel like you're getting caught off guard by a lonely moment, because that happens to all of us. I think that's just part of being a human being on this planet. Then you have that list handy and you can be like going through it, and maybe that day one activity may not be appealing to you, it might not be an option, but then maybe there's something else on the list. You're like, yeah, let me do that. And then you can shift your energy in a more positive direction and it helps you feel better. So, I don't know. I think that it's important to talk about loneliness. It's something that we're not really brought up talking about. But rather than getting down on yourself because you're having a hard time, I think it's important to just empower yourself with healthy habits and coping skills that are going to help you navigate. And over time, have a better time adjusting when you do have those uncomfortable emotions. That said, as I mentioned in the beginning, if you are struggling, please reach out to a licensed healthcare professional. You do not have to struggle alone. So I hope you found this episode helpful. If you want to read more of these tips and tricks, you can find 50 of them in my book, the Little Book of Game Changers, 50 Healthy Habits for Managing Stress and Anxiety. It is available on Amazon and lots of other places books are sold. So it would mean the world to me if you check it out. It's available, paperback, Kindle, audiobook. So lots of ways that you can consume that information. And if you like it, I would love for you to consider leaving a review. It does matter. It does help me continue to bring you content that is useful to your well-being. So thank you as always for listening. Have a wonderful day and we'll talk soon. Thank you for listening to Drama-Free Healthy Living with Jess Cording. We'll see you next time.